That's awesome. Well, then let me challenge you. You can't help find a cure for Parkinson's, okay?
I know. Well, I found, that's an interesting story from the road. A guy stopped to see if we were in trouble. This is just a real quick story. I hate to kind of commandeer this, but it turns out that he was in a church with his brother had Parkinson's, and four other people in a parishioner group of 35 had Parkinson's, and there was this child prodigy that's in their church. He actually is in like second stage of trials. This guy's 19 years old, working at or studying at the University of Arizona, and he has actually unwound the proteins in fruit flies. And he was on the front page of the paper the week before. It was total happenstance, right? I ran into these guys on the road, and he thinks he has the cure for Parkinson's. So I might be able to find a cure for Parkinson's and walking across America. You never know, right?
You know what's funny about that story, and again, I relate to that very much from the getting out there thing. You know, the cross country trip for Boys of Summer with Dad and I seeing everybody, meeting people. Same with the cross country biking trip. You're absolutely right. There's two things that happen. Number one, we live, I think, societally so isolated these days, largely because of our media and our tribalism, as we were, that the mere act of getting out and meeting people in their space, it absolutely, you're like, wait a minute, could that be there and just nobody bothered to ask the question? I mean, is that possible?
That's it. I mean, they're in a small town. He needed like $5,000 to go to the next stage. He just won this prestigious scientific prize, and just needed to connect a little bit more. I have one other quick story that's related to that. When I was trying to cross Highway 80 over the Mississippi at Vicksburg, I couldn't do it. And I talked to people for our board had been connecting with authorities for a month over the phone. No, I have it on video. I called the sheriff's department. I asked for 3 different ways if the RV could follow me over the main bridge. No. The next morning, I sat face to face with the commissioner. That contact, like sitting in front of somebody, looking someone in the eye, and discussing something. They opened the bridge. They escorted me across. That's how we get things done, is connecting with people. And there's something lost in not directly connecting with people, too, that I found on this trip that's really interesting for me.
I'm right with you. That idea of the human connection, it's so easy to say no with separation and the more degrees we add to that via technology. And by the way, I'm not anti-technology. I love technology. I just see at the same time the human aspect, the same way we are so easily divided from political comment sections, anything else. But yet you meet someone face to face on us and you go, actually, we're pretty good, aren't we? We're better than we thought we were when we were yelling across keyboards at each other.
Yeah, and I had so many people help me on this trip. It was unbelievable. All complete strangers across the entire way, and it was that connection that really resonated with me every day of this trip. It's just elevating your possibilities so much higher when you're working directly with people, for sure.
Well, good. Well, we got a little ahead of ourselves. I'm going to sidetrack because I want to make sure to get the chronology of this too. So you were told after you, okay, let's go back first. Your diagnosis, what were you misdiagnosed with first back in 2005?
It was a horrible experience. So in 2005, I had a running group at my workplace that I had started called the Running of the Gerbils. And we'd run every Tuesdays and Thursdays on the treadmills during the winter, which is how I got the name. And then we'd run outside. And I started getting this tightness in my right leg, right? So my first symptom wasn't a classic symptom of a tremor. Obviously, at the time, I didn't know it was Parkinson's. I didn't even know what Parkinson's really was, to be honest with you, in 2005. And I went in, I had an MRI, and I'm fairly tall, so I have tall man's disease, L3, L4, L5, degenerative disc disease. And so the doctors are kind of programmed to say, well, you have this pathology. My guess is it's sciatica, that my discs are rubbing on the sciatic nerve, causing my leg to tighten. So you're a candidate for fusion surgery, but don't do that. You want to wait till it's really bad. So strengthen your core. So I had the best core in America for like 5 years, right? I was doing everything to strengthen my core, but this problem was getting worse. And it started seeing it where I'd have to only run a quarter mile and I'd have to stretch out. And then I'd run an eighth of a mile and stretch out. It was getting worse and worse. Then I started noticing other symptoms. My foot was catching on the floor, and I'd be like, is there a high spot on the floor? No. Then it'd catch in another spot on the floor, and I'm like, okay, this is pretty serious. So I started Googling things, and because tremors are associated with Parkinson's, like nothing was really coming up on this stuff. I was at dinner with a friend of mine who went back to get a PhD in this research on statistics, whose brother and mother had Parkinson's, and he was going to do Parkinson's research. And I was at dinner with him telling me about it, and he stopped me after dinner. He's like, you know what, you should see a neurologist. He said, I don't know what you have, but you could have a movement disorder of some sort. So then I started Googling that, and I actually found some information on a woman runner in New York that had the same problem. Like, oh, wow. So I kind of had an idea that I had Parkinson's when I went in to see the neurologist, but even then, and I was happy to have the answer, it was still like somebody just hit me in the stomach with a baseball bat. You know, I was just like, wow, what does that mean? And, you know, everything else, because I still really didn't know that much about the disease. But it was 7 years. And at that end of that period, before I was diagnosed, I thought I had a mental issue. I thought I was crazy of myself.